This video will walk you through the process of configuring RunningSheet to work with your database. To start with, we need to go to Tools, Options, and click the SQL tab. Now the first field asks what is the resource we are sharing, and in this demonstration we'll be sharing or making appointments with staff. So in the next box we need to enter the SQL string that will select all the current staff from your database. And the easy way to do that is click on the SQL Setup Wizard. The first thing that SQL Setup Wizard asks is which field contains the identity value of the resource. Now we're after all of the staff, all of the current staff. So we want the identity value, and that is the first field, the staff ID, and we'll click Next. Now it's asking for the name, and this is the display name that will be displayed down the side of the database. We could just have surname or given, but RunningSheet has also given us the option of if we want the names joined, and we can have them surname first separated with comma or given space surname. We'll take that one and click Next. And now it's asking what do we want to show when we hold the mouse over the staff name. And in this case, we'll just select the phone number. You can alter that to have whatever you like, phone and email or whatever you want. It's now asking which field contains the ID value of the pool that the resource belongs to, and that's as easy as the pool ID. And it asks if we want to add criteria so that we only show the current records. For example, we don't want to see ex-employees. So in this case, we're going to click inactive, and we're going to say inactive not equal to true. And the reason we say inactive not equal to true rather than inactive equals false is because some databases have nulls, and if we just said equal false but it was null, it might not show those particular staff. So we need to say not true. Inactive is not true. And we'll click done. Now that's entered our resources 1 SQL statement for us on completion of the wizard, and now we can click the test button to see if it's going to work, and it says passed OK. Now if we wanted to alter that, for example the staff phone number, we could click advanced and we get a standard QBE grid which we can add things to. But for the purposes of this, we're going to exit that and leave it as is. We could also edit it straight in the line here if you know your SQL, but again, we're just going to leave things as they are. The next field we need to enter is for the pools SQL. And once again, into the SQL Setup Wizard, and we just need to find the table that contains the pools that we're using and enter the pool ID value and then the pool name. And it's important to add a criteria if it is inactive, for example. So we'll click inactive and click not equal to true. Now the next thing we're going to do is switch over to the SQL2 tab, and we're going to tell it a little bit more about the data. First question is, what do your booking records or appointment records store? For example, they could either store the end time of your appointments or the duration of the appointments. So that's a per database thing, and if you've created your database, you're going to know what it stores. In the demo, we use end time. That brings us to the booking SQL statement. So again, we click the SQL Setup Wizard, and it's asking what field contains the bookings ID value. Once again, we go into the bookings, or it might be appointments table in your database, and we click in the ID value. What field contains the ID value of resource 1? Now in this case, that's the staff, because we told it before, resource 1 down the side is for staff. So we need the staff ID. It asks for resource 2, and if we're creating a system where bookings require 2 items, 2 resources, for example, staff and rooms, then we would enter the second ID value, and that second ID value in this database is room ID. We could skip this field if we're not using a second ID. So we'll go room ID and click next. Which fields contains the start date of the booking? So that's that one. Which field contains the start time of the booking? Your fields might be called different things. As long as you point it at the one that means the start time, you'll be okay. Which field contains the end date of the booking, and which field contains the end time. And now it's asking which field contains a description of the booking that is displayed on the running sheet. This will vary depending on what your bookings database is booking, but in most cases, a lot of cases, it's going to be the client's. So in this case, we'll put in the client's surname because we haven't got much space on the running sheet. And now it's after the mouse over details. And in that, we could include whatever we want, but just for the purposes of this, we'll include just their phone number. And lastly, it's asking for a criteria. So it's only going to show the current records. For example, it doesn't want to see those records that are cancelled. So what we're going to click on here is the criteria is going to be cancelled, and again, not equal to true, because we want those records that are not cancelled. And we finish, and it's put in that for us. We can click test, and we're good to go. Now the final important one, if you want to be able to drag and drop or move appointments around on a running sheet, is the update SQL statement. If you just want the running sheet to view only, you can leave this blank. So once again, click on the SQL setup wizard. Which field contains the bookings identity value? Again, which field contains the resource 1 ID, that is the staff ID in this instance, and the resource 2 ID will be the booking ID in this instance, and which field contains the resource 1 name. For that, we have to go into the staff table, and we'll give it the same name that we gave it in the asset or the resource 1 description, and the room will be the room name, and then we'll finish. It'll put that in, we click test, and yes, it's good to go. So we can now click OK, and we can see that we can navigate around, and we can in fact view all of the bookings on the running sheet, and we can move them around, which means we can edit them too. So what can go wrong? Well, I found something went wrong while I was making this video, and when I pressed test, I got an SQL error message. Now, if that happens to you, it's likely that your SQL joins are not standard. Now, a standard join is where you've got something along the lines of bookings.roomID equals rooms.roomID, whereas the two field names are identical, which is what the SQL wizard is expecting. But if you have them different names, then you're going to have to manually edit the SQL statement to reflect that. That is going to be the most common error of all. I recommend, first of all, use the SQL wizards to create the basics of the SQL statement, and then you can edit it once you get close to what you're after. The user manual will give you the specifics of what field should go in exactly what spot in the SQL statement. Now, if you're still having troubles, you can contact me through the support link in the program, and I can help you out. I hope this video was useful. Thanks for watching.